Okay, let's see how we're going to apply fuel system cleaner on this vehicle. For this procedure, we're going to need a can of throttle plate cleaner, a can of fuel system cleaner, and a fuel system cleaner tank additive. In addition, we're going to need a cleaner hose with a fuel rail adapter, a gauge regulator, a can hanger, and have some rags handy in case of spills. As we did before, we're going to start by removing the fresh air boot at the throttle body and spraying that with our throttle plate cleaner. Loosen that clamp, slip it out of the way, place a rag under the throttle body to catch any spills. We need to remove the blue locking tab from the top of the actuator and insert the extension tube. Use your rag to wipe down the area, or if you'd like, you can use a soft bristle brush to remove those stubborn deposits. Slip the fresh air boot back over top of the throttle plate and clamp it in place. And we need to start the engine. This is going to start a little bit hard after spraying that throttle plate cleaner in there. Let's go do that. Okay, we ran the engine to clear out that throttle plate cleaner. Now we're going to apply our fuel system cleaner into the fuel rail. I've loosened this cover and we're going to remove it so that we can get access to the Schrader valve access port on this engine. We'll take the cap off of that and we'll screw the hose and the fuel rail adapter onto that Schrader port. Now you want to make sure that the valve on the hose is in the off position and the knob on the regulator is in the off position. That should be fully counterclockwise. We're working with our quick connect features. You want to make sure these quick connects are moving freely and locking. Make sure the quick connect is also in the unlock position. Should be a circular opening before making the connection to either the cam or the gauge regulator. If it's in the lock position, you're going to struggle to get those together. If you need to, you can use some throttle plate cleaner to clean these up. We'll make our connection with our gauge regulator to our cleaner hose, and we'll start the engine and look at the operating pressure. Let's go ahead and start up our engine. Okay, with the engine started, we're going to open the ball valve on the cleaner hose and we're going to read an operating pressure. At this point, if you'd like, you could pull a vacuum hose off an external fuel pressure regulator if it has one. Check for leaks through the diaphragm. Also checks the seal of that unit. The next test we're going to do is to shut the engine off. And we're looking at a static pressure. It's important to check the fuel system to ensure that it holds a static pressure. Otherwise, we're going to have a short run time with the fuel system cleaner. The cleaner will go somewhere else than through the engine. Our next step is going to be to disable the fuel pump. Now this varies on all the different vehicles. On this particular one, we have a relay in our fuse relay panel. Now we can, with our gauge hooked up, we can check to assure that we disable the fuel pump by disabling it, restarting the engine, and watching our gauge to see whether or not that pressure is going to drop. The engine should continue to run as the fuel pressure drops if you've disabled that fuel pump correctly. Let's go do that. Okay, under the hood of this vehicle we have a fuse relay panel. We're going to remove that cover. Very nice diagram to show us that this is indeed our fuel pump relay. Now we're going to start the engine and pull this relay while we're watching our gauge to see if indeed the engine runs while the fuel pressure drops. If we don't get that signal, then we may have shut down this fuel pump inappropriately. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go back over to the other side of the vehicle and we'll hook up our can of cleaner now. Okay, now let's hook up our can of cleaner. Take our can adapter, screw that onto the threads of the can. Take our can hanger, clip that onto our can. Now when you're working with this can, you always want to use it in the upside down position. There's a red band on here to help with that. Hang that from a safe location under the hood and connect it to your gauge regulator. Start to adjust our pressure up. Your ideal pressure is going to be 3 to 6 pounds below your operating pressure. That was running at about 50 pounds. We're going to set this one at about 45. Okay, we can start the engine at this point. Now, this is a 5.3 liter engine in this vehicle, so this is going to run for about 10 minutes. A smaller engine is going to run oftentimes in excess of 20 minutes. If you've got a larger engine and you can't get at least a 10-minute runtime, you could run 2 cans of cleaner through it. We're going to let this run now until the engine dies, and we'll come back and we'll disconnect all this hardware and finish up the procedure. Okay, towards the end of this procedure, you're going to see that the engine's going to run a little rough and then it's going to die out. At this point, we're just simply going to disconnect everything, plug our fuel pump relay back in, we'll start it up, and then we'll put our tank additive in and we'll be all done. And screw the dust cap back in place. Make sure you clean up any fuel spills that you might get. Now let's go ahead and replace the relay. All right, we're going to get the relay put back in place on this. Pop that cover back in place. I'm going to get the cover put back on that engine. We're going to add that fuel tank additive, and then I want to show you how to clean your hardware and properly store it. The tank additive is an essential part of the service. When added to that full tank of fuel, it helps to continue that cleaning process and guard against carbon deposit buildup. As a final step, you want to take this for a test drive. Now let's go back to our workbench and I'll show you how to clean your hardware and properly store it. A couple of things we want to point out with your hardware use. Before you throw that empty can of cleaner away, make sure you take that can adapter off. Take the can hanger off. Typically, there's a little bit of throttle plate cleaner left over. Use this to spray off the outsides of these adapters. You can wipe that with a rag. Check the locking mechanisms. It's important that these lock and unlock properly. And if you need to, you can flush out this whole unit by connecting it together, opening the valve on the hose, opening the knob on the regulator, spraying some cleaner into the hose, and allowing it to run through the assembly. To complete it, make sure you put your regulator back in the protective foam package that we shipped it in, and return your hardware to your hardware kit.